I'm Piers Lane. I'm the Artistic Director of the Sydney International Piano Competition. And on my left is Konstantin Shamray, who has quite a history with the competition himself. I played it in 1977. He played in it in 2008 and was the first prize winner. So it's lovely that he's completed his full circle, becoming a juror in 2023, and I completed my full circle, becoming Artistic Director in 2015. But Konstantin, how was it coming here this time? Did it bring back memories?
Yes, 15 years haven't passed, and first I was incredibly nervous. The very first day when we had to meet, I felt suddenly that I was going to play myself again, compete. But then when I finally met my colleagues, jurors, and everybody, and it was just suddenly relaxing and really nice and warm. But I understand that I remember every single day, almost every minute, it flashed back of me playing in 2008. I remember my program.
Really?
Yeah.
What was the first piece you played?
Bach Partita in G major.
Ah, what a lovely thing to do. Not so many people play that, yeah. And I remember you saying the other night that you had to play at 9 in the morning, or
maybe
9:30.
It was 9:30 or something, or 10.
Yeah. I've tried to do away with that in the competition because I think it's so unlike professional life to have to play at 9 in the morning. So here everything starts, I think the earliest is 11:30, but mostly at midday at the moment because I want everything to reflect real professional life as far as possible. And for that reason too, in the present competitions, it's entirely own choice for all the recitals. Contestants are asked to include an Australian piece written since January the 1st, 2000. But apart from that, everything is own choice. Was that the case back in 2012?
No, it was a bit different. It had to be, I remember I had to play Mozart sonata. There were etudes. Of course, eliminating etudes is a great thing because it's the most scary part. Sometimes you have to come on stage and play one or two etudes just out of, it's a quite nervous challenge.
Sure. And that's not something one would do in a real professional concert.
Exactly. So, of course, something has changed since 2008, and I love the changes. Although, even in 2008, I found that it was quite free in terms of choice. We also had an Australian piece, of course. I don't remember other requirements. I think Beethoven or classical sonata.
Maybe a Debussy prelude?
No.
That came a bit later.
Yes, it was Debussy prelude. Yes, exactly. I played. There were a few requirements, but still we were quite free to create the program. And that's why I remember my professor, Tatiana Zelikman, also, she said, you need to go on this one because you can make an interesting program here.
Do tell us more about your teachers, the wonderful Tatiana Zelikman, who's legendary, really, bringing up young pianists in Russia, and her husband, Vladimir Trop, whom I met decades ago when he brought Konstantin Lifshitz to London as a teenager to study at the Royal Academy. And I remember Trop going through all the Scriabin etudes with me, it must have been. I was going to record them all. And he took time. He was so generous and so warm and lovely, just talking about them because he'd done such studies of Scriabin.
Of course, he's absolute genius, player, musician. And Tatiana also. They're just among the dearest people in my life, and
totally devoted to their students and to music.
Devoted to the student, devoted to music, devoted to not just teaching students how to play piano, but to make them cultured people. I remember funny things. Tatiana, when I was 14, we went on a tour, on a little trip to Amsterdam. And I had to play as a young talent somewhere in Concertgebouw, a little bit. And then she took me to Rijksmuseum, to Van Gogh Museum, everywhere, and I didn't know anything. And then she said, you are a Mowgli. You're Mowgli from the forest. You have to come back and start reading you have to go to museum. We'll write list of books you have to read. And then she donated many books to me. And I still remember the first one was Moby Dick. Not that I did not read anything, but she just realized how far I was from being any, any cultured man. And then I remember her saying something very important. She said, culture is what is left when everything is forgotten. What is left at the bottom, that's your culture. They're just my family.
Yes. And you're here in a dual capacity, really. You're the Russian judge this year, but you're the Australian judge as well. And you're dual nationality. And the Sydney was a turning point in Konstantin's life, really, because you've been here more or less ever since, haven't you? In a way.
In a way, yeah. Not straight after, but I still remember that feeling that when I landed first for the competition, I suddenly felt, oh, that's like home. I had never felt it before. And never felt it since anywhere else. But I knew that it was something special for me in Australia straight away, even before competition started. And I honestly tell you, I did not think I would pass through the second round. Not because I was not believing myself, because I did not think. That's the thing. I just tried not to think about the elimination, about anything. I was like, okay, I will be playing while I can play. And then, I passed. Great, I can play more. And then after I passed third round, I was like, fantastic, I can play hammer clavier, Beethoven, and then Scriabin etudes. And it was for me just like this, not negative in terms of, okay, I'm not going to pass.
You didn't put pressure on yourself in that way.
I did, but it was so much pressure that, when it reached threshold, you cannot be more nervous. You just focus fully. And I remember very well that not to get nervous in a distracting way. I was just only thinking about music and nothing else. And when I was coming on stage, I was only playing. And that, when you're so focused, that helps the nerves.
Yes, I always tell people that to have something special they want to communicate in the first line, something about the harmony or some nuance that they feel something very special about, so that it takes you into yourself immediately and into the music.
As one of very good musicians told me, you have to feel extremely lonely. Like when you're on stage, you're totally lonely. Then you have nothing to be nervous about. And that advice was ever since has been the best, even though I get very worried beforehand. But if you get to the point that it's just nothing matters anymore, you're totally lonely and you play, for me, it was, I think, the key why I could succeed.
And do you feel your outlook on music has changed since you've lived in Australia for a long time? Because you did master's and doctoral degrees through Adelaide University, and you're married to an Australian, and you have two little Australians now, offspring.
Of course, changed. It has many things have changed. Whether it's because I've been living in Australia or because I've just gotten older, this is a good question.
Yeah.
Of course, we do. Constantly, get affected by things, but for sure I do hear music different way now. And I'm very glad that I've been on the jury twice of Lev Vlasenko competition before, because I feel much more experienced in hearing now, so I'm not panicking or anything like this, and I do trust myself. I do trust what I hear. And so interesting that every single pianist has completely different sound. It's first thing you notice when
you hear the same piano played 11 times in a row.
We have 3 pianos which rotate, but when a different person comes on the same piano, you hear immediately individuality, their sound. And I would say this is number one point of focus for the jurors. When you hear what type of sound, how big is the color range, right? Amplitude of sounds, of colors, of pianistic techniques of music making, lightness and ability to take off or to fully concentrate. It all comes, very clearly. Although not all the sides of performance can come straight away, and I think it's good when people keep delivering new sides through rounds. Something, oh wow, I didn't know this person could, be this. That's why I think good program is a very important point, to show different sides and keep everybody interested through rounds.
And it's great that the jury has the chance to hear all 32 twice before having to decide.
That's a fantastic point, because some people get, very nervous, and some of the greatest pianists were nervous to start the concert. Sofronitsky was famous for saying, "Oh, first word goes under the piano." It's like, get rid of it, and then so it's fantastic that everybody gets to play twice, because if something is not that well first time, you have another chance.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's the ultimate rule for any competition. Everybody has to play twice before any eliminations.
We often hear mention of the Russian school of piano playing. To me, I mean, there's about 83 schools of Russian piano playing,
Exactly.
But are there any things that you identify as particularly focused on in your background anyway in Russia?
We're talking about how many different Russias as well. Russian school of Rachmaninoff time is one Russian school. Russian school of Neuhaus and Gilels Richter time is different Russian school. The Russian school nowadays, it's again something different, right? I think I would talk more, I don't know, in my opinion, it's more about the professor school. Like school of Professor Igumnov, school of Professor Neuhaus, school of Professor, I don't know, Flier, whoever, Gilels. Especially nowadays, when the world is so
global,
quick, global. To say this is particularly Russian school, I am not sure. It's very difficult question. But what I can say, Russian school does have good theoretical knowledge. It is something. Sometimes I miss, teaching, and you understand. This person doesn't understand harmony, doesn't know the harmony. So you would, it especially shows if somebody forgets, we all forget, and it's absolutely normal. It's not about how you forget, it's about how you recover.
That's true.
And the person who understands, it at least would go into emergency mode and find a harmonic, some sketch. A person who doesn't know harmony usually goes completely blank. And so harmony, theoretical base, would be a strong point of Russian school, I would say. In terms of playing piano, as I mentioned, there's so many different schools.
Is there anything you've identified as particularly Australian in music making?
Freedom.
Lovely.
I would say freedom, because people are more free sometimes. I mean, again, we can look at it both positive and negative way. Like, it's a common understanding. Russian school, very strong, strong playing. Again, it depends on who exactly is playing, but it can be positive, and sometimes it can be negative aspect when people just are very strong. Same with Australian. People are very free to do what they want to do. It comes from,
the whole culture.
And it can be very positive because it's free. It can be negative because sometimes misses structure. But everybody is so individual. It's hard to tell this is one school, this is another school.
Yeah. Well, we have 32 different schools to consider.
Exactly.
32
different individualities.
Yes. And that's what I love about this competition too, that there's room for a lot of different ideas. I don't want one sort of player.
Yeah. And I love that the programs are so different. So you can hear everybody at their best as well.
What
that
they
makes it
identify with.
Not like we have listened already 28. We have.
Yes, we're on the second day of the preliminaries. So.
Yeah, and exactly. And I'm not feeling tired.
That's wonderful.
Because it's not 20 times you hear the same Chopin etude. 20 times you hear,
Yeah.
hear so much wonderful music.
Well, we're talking before the last session of the second day of the preliminaries
And
of the
see
first round. So
how fresh we are.
but we've got to go and listen. So thank you so much for talking, Konstantin.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the jury, and lovely to talk, and wishing everybody good luck. Whoever participates, not just here, but in other competitions too. Thank you.